Merle and Starbucks. Merle is in Starbucks. Cindy? I did see Sukasa, but now I see an empty chair. Ray, anonymous, is hi, Sukasa.
Hello. Coffee.
Rebecca, hi. Susie, Lynn, Helen Smerling, I see by name. Eric, Risa's here, but just the lower part of her, upper part of her face again. Oh, Joseph Perlin, Doris Ruvelson. Okay. Baruch Atah Adonai. Torah. Is that the cat? That must be. That's definitely the cat.
There he is.
That is a blind cat.
Oh.
Well, and a comfort animal and a very well-adjusted beast. Okay. Jim is not here. Cindy, what do we have?
Just a lot of stuff pending, nothing this week.
Okay. All right. Very good. Monday.
Jim's discussing The Hustler tonight.
Sorry?
Jim's discussion tonight is on The Hustler.
The Hustler, yes.
The old Paul Newman movie.
Yes.
Oh, The Hustler.
The Hustler must be a very early Paul Newman movie.
60s, I think.
Okay. Okay. We're just racing along here. So Monday evening, Tuesday is Purim. Wednesday, March 8th is current events, noon. So Monday, March 8th, current events at noon. And if there's any luck, the world will be coming to an end in time for the discussion. So we're looking forward to that. Jim Ruxin, you're here. Shabbat Shalom. You were here. There you are. Okay, Jim, when you're set up, you can pop in and tell us about The Hustler.
There you go. Okay, yeah, there you go. So, sorry about the confusion, but Living Edge, I hope to show and discuss, was not available at reasonable prices.
You're very, very, very not audible.
Okay.
A lot of stuff.
Is this better?
No.
Huh. Okay, let me check my settings here. Test, test. There we go. Is that better?
No, no, I don't know why.
It's distorted and breaking up. I wonder if the connection is a problem.
Yeah. Right.
In
Okay.
any event, we could mention 7:30 tonight, The Hustler, and Paul Newman. But more important than Paul Newman is
Nothing's more important than Paul Newman, except you.
Jackie Gleason.
Okay,
Well,
Minnesota is played by
Jackie Gleason. Is that what you mean?
Jackie Gleason, and I love seeing him in a serious role. He was terrific. Great movie. Great movie. Okay. Checking in to see if anything is going on in your lives worthy of brief conversation. I see Howard. Natalie, anything going on out there? Natalie. Oh, you're just waiting. Okay.
How about me? Well, I'm sorry to report that Mona is still in Seattle for the second week, tending to her sister and her health problems.
Oh.
Please send her our love, okay? Please. Okay, before we get started, and as ever, it's good to see you. I'm still not pleasant to listen to, but Effie has said that now for more than 10 years, so I don't know. Okay, this is a special Shabbat, and because it is a special Shabbat, we're going to do some different things today. The Sedra, excuse me, the Sedra is Exodus 27:20 and following. The Sedra is called Tetzaveh. But before you go running there, this is also Shabbat Zachor. I'm sorry, Risa, can you help me? I'm quietly dying here. Okay, thank you.
You're muted. Risa,
Yeah, well, when she criticizes, it's good that she's muted. Okay, this is Shabbat Zachor, Zachor, Shabbat Zachor. And because of it, we read Deuteronomy 25, verses 17 to 19. Now, this is, thank you, an additional Torah reading. So we have Tetzaveh, the normal reading, and we have Deuteronomy 25. I would like that Deuteronomy 25 is 1335 in the Plout. I would like someone who is willing to read 2 or 3 verses. Do I have a hand up? Someone who will read a couple of verses. Okay, Sukasa, thank you.
start with verse 1.
Deuteronomy 25, verse 17.
Oh, 17. Hold on one sec. Okay. It's on page 428. Remember what Amalek did to you on your journey after you left Egypt. How, undeterred by fear of God, he surprised you on the march when you were famished and weary and cut down all the stragglers in your rear. Therefore, when the Lord your God grants you safety from all your enemies around you in the land that the Lord your God is giving to you as a hereditary portion, you shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Do not forget.
Stop. Perfect. Great. Now, why is this reading always established on the Shabbat morning before Purim? The Shabbat morning before Purim is always Shabbat Zachor. Zachor is the first word. Remember what Amalek did to you. Zachor et asher asalacha Amalek. Why? Why? Okay, I see Cindy.
The correlation between Amalek and Haman, that Haman is like Amalek or maybe a descendant of Amalek, and the stories correlate to each other.
Okay, so perfect, correct. Haman is of the descended from Amalek. Why do we read about Amalek? What's the story? Look at the words. What's going on with Amalek?
He's trying to destroy the stragglers of the Jews.
When, Cindy, when did this attack occur?
During the Exodus, as they were
Now,
leaving
that's a
Egypt.
40-year span. We got to get more narrow. When during the Exodus?
I'll
Very
defer
important.
to someone else.
Okay, when during the Exodus?
When they were weak.
Yeah, this is right, Cindy, right at the beginning.
Okay.
They leave Egypt, they cross the Red Sea, Knock, knock. Who's there? Amalek. We're going to kill you. So that happens really soon afterwards. And it tells us the style of Amalek's attack. Please look at that. What is the style of Amalek's attack?
He was attacking the weaker people that were straggling in the rear.
Totally. So he surprised you on the march where you were famished and weary and cut down all the stragglers in your rear. Tell me about Amalek in Jewish tradition. Tell me about Amalek. Anybody on Amalek? Steve.
He's really the equivalent of evil incarnate. I mean, Hitler is Amalek. Any major evil force that seeks to destroy the people is essentially equated with Amalek.
Correct. So that Amalek becomes the code word prototype of all those who would attack the Jewish people. They are Amalek. And one of the reasons about the Hitler connection is that during the 1930s, when some Jewish leaders in Europe were attacking what Hitler represented, they didn't speak of Hitler. They spoke of Amalek. Okay? It was a lot safer to speak of Amalek than to speak of Hitler. So Hitler was Amalek. Every enemy. Steve, your hand up again.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question if any of the right-wing Israeli government is sort of viewing Palestinians and terrorists in the same vein.
Okay, so here's a slightly extended answer. The real answer is yes. And remember, you all remember, I love it when once a year I'm correct. I said, keep your mind on Amalek and Smotrich, right? On Ben Gvir and Smotrich, right? I said that, and you know, I just like to mention periodically how correct I periodically am. Ben Gvir is the now Minister of Public Safety for Israel. He's in charge of all of the police, internal activities, security, and so forth. Now, I'm going to give you a date. Purim, 1994. Connect me with that. Purim, 1994. What happened? Please, Mara.
Was that the assassination of Rabin?
No,
Oh,
no, but it could have been. No. No.
Isn't that the assassination by, I'm forgetting his name, Goldman, whatever his name is, against
Baruch
Goldstein? Yeah.
On Purim Day, 1994, Baruch Goldstein entered Ma'arat HaMachpelah, the cave of the patriarchs in Hebron. Dr. Goldstein, who, by the way, in his career, refused to treat Arab patients. Dr. Goldstein entered the cave area. There was a room that is used as a mosque. 800 Palestinians in Hebron were davening in the mosque that morning. he proceeded to massacre 29 people. The only reason he only massacred 29 is because they trampled him to death. That's what stopped the massacre. Purim, 1994. The current head of Israeli domestic security has kept a picture of Baruch Goldstein on his desk as a way of showing honor. When Ben Gvir was named a minister, he removed the picture from his desk. The current minister of domestic security in Israel views Palestinians as Amalek, needed to be destroyed. Excuse me for 1 second. The connection, the linear connection between Shabbat Zachor and Purim and what's going on in Israel at this moment, it's a linear connection. Now, we all know of the back and forth murder, revenge, murder, revenge, murder, revenge going on in Israel right now. And without going into the details, we can stop at one point, but actually it goes before. 2 Israeli brothers were killed by Palestinians, murdered. Okay? In response, a group of Israeli settlers went to the neighboring Palestinian town in the West Bank and basically burned it to the ground. Apparently, we had only 1 death only, but it was, ladies and gentlemen, I will use the word and then you're going to define it. It was a pogrom. Now, explain to me what I mean by a pogrom and not just a revenge assault. What is unique about a pogrom that is not the same as a nasty assault? Howard.
In the current Jewish Forward are a number of articles on the issue of, is the attack on that town a pogrom? One of the best is by Rachel Schechter, who's their Yiddish editor, and makes a very strong case for why the use of the word pogrom is wrong.
The word pogrom, Risa?
It means that they come in with an intention of slaughtering everyone who's there.
Joseph Perling put into the
government.
Government sanction of attack by civilians. And
yes, but traditionally in English, the word pogrom, which has other meanings in other languages like Russian, that it came from, has been referred to the slaughter of Jews.
Yes. And
this is not pogrom. In fact, nobody was slaughtered. So
if you,
except for some cars that were burned out in a junkyard.
Okay, if you take the literal word pogrom as it's used, it is a government-sanctioned civilian attack on Jews.
Well, according to Rachel Schechter, the traditional use in English is, and she's a linguist, specializes in these things, it's the slaughter of Jews.
Yes, Absolutely. Now, Howard, let me move on.
It's like you could call it a Holocaust too. You could call it a bris. You could call it anything, but it's actually not a pogrom. And it's just a libel to call it, in my opinion, to call it a pogrom. People that
Okay. And
want to make Israel look bad and are very upset that they've lost power to the Israeli government because the majority or the plurality in England in Israel has voted in a new government that doesn't support them.
Okay, now I am going to go because
This is
I have no shame. Howard, let me go forward, okay? All right. Howard is totally correct in the not only standard but universal use of the term pogrom. It is a government-sanctioned civilian attack on Jews. That's what it is. And it should not be besmirched by other things. I will assure you that on my social media feed and on my personal communications with a lot of folks in Israel and Jewish leaders in the United States, the word pogrom is being used almost universally to describe this Jewish attack on an Arab village. And we object. Howard was correct in everything that he said. I don't say that often, Howard, but everything that he said. And that to use the word Holocaust in speaking about something other than the Holocaust is obnoxious and wrong. So I am being obnoxious and wrong in saying that this settler attack on an Arab village is being regarded by Jewish leaders across the world as a pogrom. And I admit it is an abuse of language. But this event has horrified Jewish leaders in a way that nothing up until this point has done. And what I'm waiting for is the fallout from this. Ben Gvir and his buddy Smotrich have come close to saying they should have murdered everybody. Okay? His comments in the last several days have been astonishing. This is Shabbat Zachor. And I want to, because Effie's going to yell at me, I want to read and understand what the Deuteronomy passage is saying. Arthur?
I believe that that's the trend that even in these times, when Israelis retaliate, they do not retaliate on the lives of the invader. They destroy the house of the person. They make it a damage on material, not on the life. This is what the Israelis are doing now.
Yes. Yes. I am telling you that what I am saying violates normal, accustomed usage. I'm saying that.
So we can add that to Holocaust, we can add that to this diaspora, we can add that to the right of return. All these terms true things that have happened to the Jewish people have been appropriated by the enemies of the Jewish people and turned around in this enormous, pulling the wool over, trying to pull the wool over the eyes of the willing public. We're only too anxious to have ammunition for attacking Jews. And it's just not true to me. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. And I want you to know, Howard, that I have agreed with everything you said, and I'm continuing anyway. That makes me whatever I am, but you are correct. And I need to validate that. I need to say you are correct, and I am plunging blindly forward. And I want to be able to look at this passage if you allow me, but Rebecca quickly, Mara quickly, I do want to get to text.
I just want to point out that in Exodus 18, the very last sentence, it says, the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a text reference, and I appreciate that. Mara.
So I want to go to text as well. And I'm looking at the passage that was read, and we are told to we are told to blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven.
Yes.
So my first comment on that is blotting out the remembrance of Amalek does not mean destroying Amalek. It means blotting out the remembrance of it. And perhaps in blotting out the remembrance of it, we do not seek to destroy. And that is why we shall not forget. We shall not forget that our response is not to murder. Our response is not to destroy. Our response is to, I hesitate to use the term, our response is to turn to love. And I know that brings up all kinds of arguments about the Holocaust and the traditional response of Jews going to like lambs to slaughter, but to remember our enemies and behave as our enemies does not forward the cause of justice, nor does it forward the intent of Judaism.
Maybe we should talk about the 10 Commandments or something, or just go away from the topic. Mara, it is my understanding of the rabbinic understanding of the text. When the eternal your God grants you safety in the land you have, get the picture. When you are secure and self-governing in the land, when you have government, military, police, when you are militarily secure, blot out the memory is not act with love or wipe it out of history. It is a call to genocide. Genocide being effort to wipe out, physically wipe out a given people. The standard interpretation by rabbinic Judaism and all subsequent texts is genocide. Wipe out Amalek. Not turn with love, not act in a different manner and show that you have moved on. I want to read the passage. Remember what Amalek did to you, the beginning of the Exodus. Undeterred by fear of God. And you know that Judaism has what's called the 7 Noahide laws, the 7 laws of Noah. And there are certain standards which are applied universally by Torah to the world. So it doesn't matter whether you're Jewish or not. If you sexually assault someone, that is a totally forbidden, universally forbidden act. What Amalek did when it says undeterred by fear of God, it connects to the Noahide statements saying they violated universal norms. And for that, they will be punished.
So you're telling me that this is how the rabbis interpret this. Tell me that looking at the Hebrew, it cannot be interpreted as I suggest.
I am being beaten up here. I'm going to be black and blue. And you know, in my little screenshot here, you and Howard are right next to each other. Right next to, I mean, you were like right like that. And I cannot tell you that you're wrong. I can tell you that the overwhelming weight of rabbinic understanding of the passage is genocide. It doesn't mean that it could not be read otherwise. Yes, Mara, it could. It just hasn't been. It just hasn't been. But it could be, yes. Now,
Rabbi?
Surprised you on
Rabbi,
Sue? Is who's saying Rabbi? Sue.
I do.
Sue and Steve.
Okay.
I would, you know, we, in the Quran somewhere, there's a passage that they're supposed to, I'm not paraphrasing it correctly, but that they're supposed to wipe out their enemies and, or the people that don't believe in Allah. I don't, but, and that's been used as an anti-Semitic trope among Muslims, terrorists, and so forth. How is that different from this? To wipe out the enemies of Amalek, to wipe out Amalek as because he's an enemy.
That quotation probably that you're referring to specifically says Jews.
Okay. Sue Kasap. I am not a student of Quran. I have studied with Reuben Firestone, and I have studied a bit of Quran with him, who is one of the great Jewish scholars of Quran. And one of the things that Reuven pounded at my obdurate brain is that the Quran was written at a time that very closely parallels the growth and development of the Talmud. And that in so many ways, the Quranic material reflects the Talmud, in that it has passages which are obscene. I don't mean dirty obscene, they're nasty, right? For example, Sue, I'm talking to you and I want no one else to listen. There is a Talmudic passage which states that it's okay to have sex with a very, very young female baby because the hymen will grow back, no harm done. Now, since I'm only talking to you and no one else heard that, that's our secret. I can go into the Talmud and make my hair stand on end. Not often, but there are a few passages which are wholeheartedly disgusting. I can't therefore do that to the Quran. What I can't do to the Talmud by saying this one-off passage is paradigmatic of the Talmud. I have to be really careful about what I do with the Quran and its periodic, obscene, same sense passages. Okay? The Quran in so many ways in style reflects midrashic materials, Talmudic materials being created at the same time. Its style is quite similar in many ways. In the absolute monotheism of the Quran, those who are not absolute monotheists fare very poorly. I will not call that anti-Semitic. Radical exclusionary, severely judgmental, arrogant beyond belief, I'll give you. But it is the absolute intolerance of the Quran for anything other than Allah, which makes the Quran judge. And I will say, in that judgment, Judaism comes out ahead of Christianity. Because Islam regards Christianity as more problematically non-monotheistic than Judaism. And since the purity of monotheism is the litmus test, Judaism is better than God, Jesus, Mary, and the whole business. Okay? And I will not, and I'm not going to go there. And look, we're at 9:40. I'm not going to go there, but we have to be so careful because in the framing of your question, you put Muslims and terrorists in the same sentence. And I remember that you did that. Let's not. Yeah, I know. I read your lips. I know you didn't mean it. But this is a screwed up world we live in. And Justice Howard was cautioning me, don't use pogrom because that's us. That's our word and term. Have to be really, really careful. I want to go back. I see Steve, and I want to go back to the text. And I knew Pandora's box. I knew it, Steve.
You almost touched on this because I'm concerned with calling it genocide. I don't, does it really mean we should kill every German? There were righteous Gentiles. Amalek is people who seek to destroy us, which I think is also different than what the Quran is saying, because it goes against people who weren't trying to destroy them. But it's people who are seeking to destroy us, which is not necessarily every given person of, I'm reluctant to use the word race, but however you want to define the group, why would the innocent have to suffer because of their poor brethren?
Okay, again, this is so complicated and so worthwhile, but let me just say that I have never encountered any serious Jewish scholar calling for the destruction of the German people. I have not. Go and
Seemingly
slaughter.
what this passage, if it means genocide, would mean.
It would not mean murdering all the German people. Genocide, I am not aware of a call for genocidal behavior against Germans. If I had, I would oppose it. First of all, where would you get all the taxis in Israel if Mercedes wasn't there? But King Saul. May I mention King Saul? Remember King Saul? King Saul was ordered to destroy all of Amalek in his day, including the rulers of Amalek in that day. So, Mara, I'm putting on to what I said earlier, a later statement in the Bible in which God is indicated to have called for Saul to complete the destruction of Amalek. Saul did not kill the king of Amalek. And for that reason, it says in the Bible, Saul was abandoned by God and told that he could not be king of the Jewish people.
10 when it is over.
I'm sorry? Okay.
Well, so that gets back to if Hitler's Amalek, why do you get to distinguish for that Amalek from other Amaleks vis-a-vis genocide?
It is over.
I'm just going to repeat myself, Steve. It nowhere is held by mainstream Jewish thinkers. It is nowhere held that Germans should be wiped out. I'm sorry. It's not there. I mean, are there?
No, I agree, and that's why I'm troubled by saying Amalek and always means genocide. I'm saying genocide is a more extreme concept than what this is telling us.
It's calling for the absolute destruction of a people. That's genocide. It's calling for the absolute destruction of Amalek. That's genocide. By the way, genocide, unfortunately, is not restricted to the Jewish world. We do genocides all over the place, and we understand it. Now, I want to share with you a statement by Rabbi Ethan Tucker. Tucker is Rosh Yeshiva. He is one of the major teachers of a Jewish adult education powerhouse called Hadar. Hadar. Tucker wrote the following. This week, we have once again experienced Jews being attacked and murdered with their guard down. Howard, are you listening? We have experienced Jews being attacked with their guard down. It is natural, therefore, to reach for Parashat Zachor when seeking vengeance for what was taken from us. The specific reference is to the two boys, the brothers, who were killed. It seems like a made-for-the-moment text, a passage in the Torah that calls out, please, Mara, listen to what Tucker says, that calls out those who prey on the weak and demands that we identify the external enemy who took them down and eradicate them. But this week, we also saw a great desecration of God's name as religious Jews torched hundreds of homes in the village where the attackers came from. This is what got Tucker, and I continue. Pausing to daven Mariv as the flames rose from the village, these young men, wearing their kippot and tzitzit, may have felt that they were fulfilling the biblical command we read this week, taking revenge on our enemies. Ethan Tucker, a powerhouse scholar, Hadar, one of the great, and by the way, Orthodox leaning adult ed places. Describing what I described. And then he says the following. Amalek is closer to us than we like to think. Amalek is the path not taken, Israel's doppelganger in history, reflecting what might have been and what is still always possible if we lose our way.
Ooh.
This is what could happen if Jews stray from the correct path. Okay. My view, and then I'm going to turn to you for any final comments because it's really important. This is Purim. This is since 1994, the day that Baruch Goldstein on Purim morning, on the Shabbat prior to Purim, Baruch Goldstein in Kiryat Arba heard Parashat Zachor read. Several days later, he took what he heard and murdered 29 Palestinians. I'm going to stop. And you are warmly welcome to be unhappy, to be mad, to criticize me, to call me wrong. I can live with that. That's okay. It's your class. Your class. Eric, you have your hand up. I don't hear you, Eric. Okay.
My hearing aid's blacked out a little. They've been blacking out. And I think we have a little bit of Amalek in each of us because we can get very emotionally about issues and destroy our logic. Because I am on a spectrum and we have very logical brains and very poor emotional brains. And maybe our emotional brain get fired up too much and cloud the logical part of our brain. And also the comedians like Mel Brooks did an excellent job in satirizing the illogicalness and the stupidity of Hitler in his play, The Producers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Effie.
Well, I'm probably one of the few people here who remember Pearl Harbor. So I lived through the war. My father was a newspaper man, Jewish Telegraphic Agency. And every night he brought home stories of what was happening in Europe. And since that time, I have said I will never go to Germany, and I never have, even though I've been in Europe. I will never buy German products, and I haven't. But at the same time, people said to me, well, what about the people in Israel? They're getting German products right after the war. And I said, that's great. I think that's great, and I think they should get them. But I myself, having seen my father come home at night crying, and met some people who had survived the Holocaust, I just made that two promises to myself.
Thank you, Effie. Thank you. Anybody else want to speak up, or we will move forward? Anybody else? Tamara?
Yep, she's muted.
You're muted.
What I get out of the Amalek law here is it's an outcry and rage at people in power who gratuitously attack vulnerable people when they're at their most vulnerable, because that's what it says. Remember what they did. They attacked needlessly and killed the Nechshalim, the weaker ones. And I think the warning today is when we as Jews become people in power, which we Americans don't think of ourselves, but many Israelis do, and perpetuate the kind of slaughter of innocent people
Put my hand down.
because we are powerful. So to me, that is part of the lesson, and what makes what happened this week so horrifying. That is when Jews come, when we Jews, and I'm an Israeli, when we Israelis come to power, that we behave like Amalek.
Oh, I have something to say too.
Thank you, Risa, and then Harriet.
I must tell you that I have two experiences. One is walking through Mea Shearim on Purim and being totally disgusted by the kids who were smoking and all the antics that were going on. And while I was in the role of assistant principal at an Orthodox yeshiva for a number of years, the kids were roiled up by the rabbis to be destructive and running through the halls and interrupting classes and running out of the building and breaking rules. And that what has happened to Purim, because of this aspect of it, I really, really do not like this holiday at all, any aspect of it.
Thank you, Harriet. Yes.
I think you mean Natalie, no?
Natalie, I'm sorry, Natalie.
Yes, that's okay. There's another issue here that we are skirting over. 2 brothers were killed. If the Jews just sat back and did nothing about this, does anyone here think that more brothers were not going to be killed after this? We have sat back in centuries because we had no power to outcry and make a statement that you cannot do these horrible things to us. So here we're talking about being good and nice and let's look away, and Amalek is something we should not be paying attention to. Some of us are thinking that. But where is the other side? we have power in our own country, and you cannot kill two brothers without something happening. Maybe someone could say, what should be the answer to that? Just write an article in the newspaper? This is what we're dealing with. Two brothers from a family, innocent Jewish boys that were killed. And we are directing this whole conversation for the last half hour on leaving everyone alone so that we come out as good, kind people. Good, kind people don't last in this world because we're dealing with human beings. And this Torah starts the first story that one brother kills another. And that is the lesson. Watch out. Take care of yourself. And I'd like to hear what somebody else has to say about what I just said.
May I just thank you, Natalie? May I thank you? Thank you very much. I see Mara. This is going to be your closeout. Mara
It's Harvey.
Yeah.
To me, this gets back to the definition, all of this gets back to the definition of what is justice. Is revenge justice? Or are we above that as a civilization where we can say, get the people who committed the crime, bring them to trial or bring them to some kind of justice? And I think we're going towards the definition of justice here. And I'll be quiet for a while.
And I just want to add on to what Harvey said, that when we teach the Greek, if Brad were here, I think he would say,
Brad is here. Brad is here.
Well, Brad should say that when we teach the classic Greek plays, that the movement is from revenge killings to judges and justice. And it's the transition from the old culture to the new. And it's exactly what Harvey's talking about.
Yeah.
Harvey, now I understand you. Thank you. Okay, Howard. Howard, I can't hear
Okay,
you.
good. Okay. First of all, I need to say the fact that a bunch of crazy guys with these crazy, I don't want to say crazy, these guys that go, Jewish terrorists, I do not feel as a Jew any more secure. I feel less secure because they're going around burning down, I don't think hundreds of houses, and I don't think, but what they did is terrible. It's not making it on a pragmatic level, it's not making us safer. It's very bad. And secondly, from the Torah, from what I've been struggling to read from the Bible, a lot of things are in the Bible, and then you can also find the opposite of the Bible. But you study it, and you from my pitiful little small amount of studying, terrorism is just wrong, and vengeance is bad. It may say we should take vengeance on Amalek, but it doesn't. It also says we should stone homosexuals, and those are both my lessons from the Torah. Is neither one of those lessons is right, and I don't follow that.
We're doing great. Thank you, Howard. Is there anyone else who wants to offer a perspective? I would be interested in Maya. This is it. You're a tad younger than I am. Do you want to weigh in at all on this conversation, Maya?
I would like to, but I will make it brief and general and not try to get into the nitty-gritty because we're out of time. In saying that, I think a lot of what we're talking about is trying to directly apply what we learn as Jews to what systems of humanity look like for everybody else. And we navigate what justice looks like and what vengeance looks like within a Jewish bubble. And I don't think we have I think we have the time to expand beyond that in order to have discussions of bigger issues that are happening beyond strictly Judaism. So for us to only see these issues and navigate the ideas of vengeance through systems like Amalek, where we're supposed to turn back and fight against, I don't think it's fair to just chalk it up to violence. And I think there is a way that we can navigate these conversations in matters of peace. And there's a lot more that I could say, but there's no time for it. It's big stuff. We've just been commenting back and forth about it the whole time. So I'll stop there.
You know, if we started a conversation, that's got to be worthwhile, right? Thank you for that. I see Eric and Howard, and we're going to stop. Eric?
My hearing aid blacked out again. I remember Barry Goldwater's speech in the Republican convention saying extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice, and moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue. That really was a wake-up call to me to become a conservative libertarian. Thank you.
Thank you. And Howard?
I pulled my hand down.
Okay. All right. A Stanley comment. This is a highly explosive issue. And the fact that this group is capable and willing to engage in serious disagreement over a matter of folks' existential concern. How do we treat those who abuse us? I saw the funerals of those two boys, the brothers. One of the things that we have to look at is how did we get in this position in the first place? It's not just at the presenting problem. How did we get into a situation in which active enmity, murderous assault, driving cars into people standing at bus stops, burning down villages? Does anyone really think that any one of these acts will heal the problem which is at the source of the violence? No matter how we feel about treating Amalek, we better wake up to the fact that our world is spinning apart. And it is our business to try to bring healing. And that means to be dramatically involved in what's going on in Israel. And that means being dramatically involved into what's going on here. This is not normal. This is not the average run of history. And we are in danger of losing control of our civilization. I really believe that. And I believe that those who stand quietly by are joining those who are ripping our civilization apart. That we have no right with regard to Israel. Folks, I did something which I have never done in my life, and I got to end here. I learned that the Israel Bonds Organization has invited Smotrich to deliver a major address at an Israel Bonds function in the United States.
Whoa.
I have been a forever supporter and leader of Israel Bonds nationally. And yesterday, I sent a note into the Israel Bonds Organization condemning what they have done, what we have done, condemning. We've all got, I haven't gotten any answer yet, Shabbos. We all have to stand up and say what needs to be said in the United States and in Israel. We can't let this continue. I am going to go to Kaddish. I want to thank you for pushing back hard and for feeling free to express your feelings. This is, I think, Murrah, I'm going to end with your words. This is so difficult. Yes, Murrah, this is so difficult. This was extraordinary today. We didn't kill each other. This was amazing. Amazing. We are going now to Kaddish. I am going to be adding to the Kaddish list of those who passed away recently. One of my very close friends, Rabbi Arnold Goodman, who was one of the great leaders of the conservative movement. And Arnie and Ray and Risa and I have been close for decades. He passed away this week. And Minette Myers, a beautiful soul who lived so long that her community forgot her. But I didn't. Those who have passed away during the past month: Camilla Dar, Virginia Belukian, Sam Davis, Celia Goldman, Rabbi Arnold Goodman, Betty Grabenchikoff, Albert Greenfield, Lois Melvoin, Minette Myers, Joel Ostro, Arnold Palmer, Ruth Rosenberg, Clara Stovitz. Yard sites that have occurred during the past week: Bill Abrams, Alfred Adler, Jack Armel, Leah Banks, Sidney Beckerman, Alfred Burke, Leonard Berman, Solly Berman, Robert Berry, Alma Bogia, Carol Ann Brand, Ingrid Graslow, Ruth Bronte, Martin Brown, Irving Birkin, Norma Candib, David Chorna, Sharon Croman, Stella Codd, Chaim David, Herbert Eric, Helen Felsenthal, Doris Fink, Irving Fink, Max Martin Fisher, Harry Fleischman, Santa Fox, Evelyn Fox, Burton Friedman, Monty Friedman, Benjamin Gelfond, Maurice Gersh, Harry Gilfenbane, Robert Goldberg, Marlene Goldblum, Charlotte Goldman, Bram Goldsmith, Annette Goligorsky, Muriel Goodman, Simon Grant, Giza Gray, Stanley Grinstein, Nina Haybert, Harry Harris, Jack Hertz, Rabbi Yehuda Heskioff, Yoet Ho-Chan, Evelyn Honoroff, Sybil Hyman, Louis Jacobs, Nat Jenkins, Jean Campbell Jones, Arthur Josephs, Robert Harry Carrots, Judy Carmen, Ebrahim Kashani, Leon Klappholtz, Elizabeth Klein, Helen Klein, Martin Königsberg, Gordon Coppold, Joseph Kurtzman, Elizabeth Kurzina, Marcus Labe, Douglas Lamb, Jay Lindsay, Oscar Lerman, Dave Levitch, Rose Levin, Jean Leiber, Ruth Lennick, Olive Glipkin, Sidney Loeb, Mildred Lomask, Nicholas Lubin, Stan Margulis, Deanna Mason, Arnold Mass, Wayne Myers, Murray Miller, Jack Nager, Noreen Nelson, Raymond Marshall Norton, Ida Nowinson, Joyce Olin, Michael Polovoy, Esther Redinger, Arpad Rev, Marshall Rissman, Sarah Rosen, Barbara Rothschild, Milton Rowan, Joyce Rubenstein, Rhoda Samuel, Ruth Savan, Jacqueline Rose Schiff, Susan Shaw, Buddy Schreier, Isaac Silver, William Sin, Leo Serrata, Albert Skluth, Bertha Skolnick, Miriam Sloan, Nathan Spielberg, Sam Steinberg, Nicole Catherine Sugiwecki, Stephen Tech, Janet Tenzer, Linda Tepper, Albert Wagner, Alexander Wasserman, Shirley Weinstein, Milton Weiss, Elaine Groman Weiss, Helen Weiner, Audrey Walworth, Lillian Wurst, Eleanor Yowitz, Inga Zelkowitz, Nancy Zeman, Harold Slotnick. If there are other names that you would like mentioned now or that names I mispronounced, please speak those names now in your hearts or with your words. We bear in mind the names of those who died in defense of the United States, those who died in the defense of Israel, those who died through senseless acts of violence and horror, those for whom there is no one to say Kaddish. We bear all of them in mind now as we join in Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah v'almad divrach hirutei Ablith Malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayedechon v'agalav v'zman kavim v'imru amen Yehi Shmei Rabbah v'varach Li'olam li'olmei almayim Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpahar v'mam v'yitnaseh Yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei Kurita Vrichu Leila min kol birchata v'shukrata Tushbechata Damiran bi'alma v'imru Amen. Shlama Rabba min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru Amen. Hoseh Shalom Imromav. Hu ya'aseh Shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru Amen. May God, who makes peace in the high places, make peace in our hearts, make peace in our homes, make peace in the household of Israel, make peace among all the families and nations of earth, and let us say,
Amen.
Amen.
Hi, Joy.
Hi, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom from Hot Florida.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
wise
Shabbat
word,
shalom.
today's
Shabbat shalom.
world. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom, Rabbi. Very
Very
wise word.
therapeutic, I like group therapy. It's fun and it's educational too. Capiche?
Capiche.
Okay, that's a New York term. You have to know a little Italian to get around. Thank you, love.
Thank you and love.
Bye.
Wow.